Hello, thanks for joining us here at the European Parliament in Brussels for the second part of this week's Talking Europe. Now, at the most recent EU Leaders Summit last week, much of the talk was focused on the future of the European Union, particularly its potential enlargement, with varying degrees of assurances on possible membership given to Ukraine, Moldova, and to a different degree, Western Balkan states. The leaders, however, gave less attention to the future of the European Union as sketched out by citizens during a year-long process called the Conference on the Future of Europe. Back in May, the conference produced 49 concrete proposals and more than 300 ways to achieve them for reforming the European Union. Now, they range from pan-EU health standards to changing how EU migration works. A majority of members of this Parliament have backed the proposals, but the governments of the EU's 27 member states seem to be showing less enthusiasm at this point. Well, with me to discuss whether the Future of Europe proposals have a future themselves, we have two members of the Parliament who've been involved in the process. German Green MEP Daniel Freund, hello there.
Hi.
And Belgian MEP from the European Conservatives and Reformist Group, Asita Kanko. Thank you for being with us as well. So you both participated in the conference in different capacities, as I said. Daniel Freund, if I come to you first, you were an observer to the executive board of the conference. As I said, the leaders got together last week. They said they take note of the proposals. The EU's institutions must ensure there is an effective follow-up, and they want citizens to be kept informed of the progress. Now, is that the sound of enthusiasm, or in another way, is this going anywhere?
Well, what's important is the discussions in a way that have taken place behind closed doors. The foreign affairs ministers that prepped the EU summit also discussed this in much more detail. And what we see now is that there is a majority of member states that are actually in favor. They didn't want to take the vote quite yet. They want to build an even larger coalition in favor of this. But if you would have asked 2 years ago who is ready to change the treaties, 0 governments would have supported. And now we have 14 governments on the record saying, you know, this is something that we need to discuss also in light of enlargement.
14 out of 27, though, it's not a huge majority. Asita Kanko, you spoke in the Parliament about the danger that this process might end up actually worsening or broadening the gaps between citizens and the European Union. What do you make of this response, this initial response from the leaders of the member states?
Well, I must say that it's quite strange to build a huge process, bureaucratic process, to make sure that politicians are speaking to their citizens, because basically our jobs as politicians is to speak with citizens and do what we promised that we would do during elections, and the consultations happens every 5 years during the elections. So from that point, I was wondering from the start, is this really something that is going to change anything, and is this really something that is needed? Who are the citizens? People from my constituency, they don't know anything. I checked also some people in Germany, in France, don't know what this is about. So it's just a huge machine, and many people in Parliament did not really understand what the point was. So I think that maybe the reason why when we speak about the council that they're not very talkative about this is because it remains a bit fast and confusing for most people. Looking at the point of changing the treaties, I really worry about that. You know, when people can change something so fundamental as treaties here, or as a constitution somewhere, or as we had this debate about Roe v. Wade in the US, when something is huge and is the fundamental base of something big like the EU, it should not be changed that easily. So I think, and also I noticed in the Parliament that we don't listen really to everyone. So diversity of opinions has not really been taken much into account. I am totally against a federal EU, a federal Europe. Europe must have an added value for each member state, for each region that actually has different challenges. That is the role of Europe.
Well, I would really disagree with that. We're not rushing anything. We have seen crisis after crisis since the current set of treaties became operational over 10 years ago. And now we have taken a full year to discuss with citizens. And now we're saying, let's start another debate in a convention with the governments, with members of all national parliaments, with members of the European Parliament. I don't think that we're taking the debate on how the constitution or the EU treaties should look like lightly. But the new thing that we had here, and that was important for the first time, we actually have a forum where national parliamentarians, where governments, where members of the European Parliament, where commissioners can debate together, because we never have that. We never have that composition of all the players that can actually discuss, you know, how does the war in Ukraine need to change Europe? What lessons do we need to draw from the corona pandemic? How do we now confront a completely changing economic situation with rising inflation?
Exactly. There are members in this parliament who are elected in the member states to be the voices of the citizens inside this parliament, and we do have the member states who can express their voice from the national governments in the council. We do have the commission. We do have this dialogue between political parties. So I was thinking like it is, you know, like adding something that is not really necessary to something that exists and that we are not using, because the EU has a lot of tools and has a mandate. And this mandate so far, we did not use it sufficiently. We did not anticipate about energy independence. We did not anticipate about the war in Ukraine, because sitting here in the Committee on Security and Defense and Foreign Policy, I was challenging High Representative Borrell in the plenary already beginning of 2021 about the way in which the EU was treated by Lavrov. I mean, we're just running behind the facts, and then when we sit and we say we cannot solve the problem, let's make a committee about it. You know what? I played the game. They brought this. I said, okay. But when I look at the citizens who are speaking in the plenary, I think like, who are these citizens? Are they really citizens or just the elite? This is yet an elite. I challenge anyone to go on the street, to go to the market, and find someone who was involved in this citizen thing. Find someone.
What?
You can go in the street and ask, you will find nobody who said, oh yes, I was one of the citizens there. It's just, again, bureaucratic.
So the statistic probability of meeting in the street is reasonably
It's just an elite. It's just people who are in the bubble.
A question then perhaps, Daniel Freund, I imagine you might want this to be repeated. Do you think that this should be broadened, this conference, reaching out to more people, greater number of people if this exercise is repeated?
I mean, we have seen in many also of the member states that this new tool of randomly but representatively selected citizens is a good tool to complement parliamentary democracy. We have seen great examples in Ireland, in France, at the local level, in Belgium, in Germany, other member states. And I think this conference has been a success, and we should do that in Europe. But you know, I mean, this debate we had now as part of the conference was extremely broad, while only being on during a short period of time. And I think we can consult citizens like that, but on specific questions in the future.
I think this conference was a failure. It has cost 25 million euros, while we are speaking about the cost of living. While today some people cannot buy menstruation products, where today some people cannot even buy enough food. And we have spent so much money to sit in a room and find out how we are going to speak to citizens, whereas it's our job to do that every day. For free.
A clear difference of opinion between the two of you. We don't have much time left on the programme, so I did want to show our viewers some of the concrete proposals that did actually come out of this. Some of the proposals big and conceptual, some of them more day-to-day. For example, one that might appeal to you if, like me, you're sick of buying a toaster and it's exploding after 2 years, and you remember back in the 80s and 90s that didn't used to happen. Now, in section 5 of the proposals on consumption, packaging and production being sustainable, there's a call from citizens for a so-called right to repair. Moves on this are actually already underway at the European Parliament. So our Brussels correspondent Alix Le Bourdon went to meet some DIY repair fans and find out a bit more about this issue.
This sewing machine is not even 2 years old, but already the flywheel is stuck. When Marie learned that this moving repair shop was stopping near her home, she didn't hesitate for a second to bring the defective appliance there.
I bought it on the internet. So, to go to the store with something you bought on the internet, they'll tell you, but that, madame, it's not good, you had to buy it from us. So I didn't dare go to a reseller.
This is the case for more and more customers of repair cafes, like Marie-Christine, who didn't want to throw away an old vacuum cleaner.
The object really has to be out of order. Otherwise, as long as there's hope, I don't throw it away.
The diagnosis may be bad, but the repairer offers solutions to avoid the trash bin.
The solution is to change the engine. We can always find another broken vacuum cleaner and we take the motor, so from 2 that are going to go to the trash, we make 1 that works.
Monique couldn't find anyone to repair this old sewing machine.
When I have an old device that breaks, it saddens me because all these made in China products are not a good thing.
Objects whose lifespan Emmanuel sometimes suspects is deliberately reduced by the manufacturers.
We see a lot of obstacles that prevent us from repairing objects, screws that are hidden, parts that are glued together. There's often a problem. We can't always tell if it's obsolescence. We never know how to prove if the manufacturer has reduced the life of the object.
This is the principle of planned obsolescence, against which the European Parliament has been fighting for several years.
It's also really important, that the Commission comes up with a proposal that access to spare parts and better information for consumers, for example, with a kind of product passport or repair score, is included in the proposal.
Such an index has already existed in France for more than a year. The Commission's proposal is expected in the autumn.
There we go, so proposed rights to repair your appliances, one of the many proposals that came out of this conference on the future of Europe, which we'll be interested to see what the future of these proposals is, as we've been discussing in our programme. Asi Tukenko and Daniel Freund, thank you very much for participating in the discussion today. Thanks to you for watching and see you soon here on France 24.